This is why we cannot create a literary renaissance, because throughout the day, I contemplate as a high school English teacher how to wake up the next generation. But I also contemplate how to wake people up at scale with conscious art, with spirituality, and other mediums. And that's what this channel is all about. But when it comes to literature and getting people back into reading, I see two main archetypes that are holding that back. And these unindividuated, polarized groups are the problem. They are back at level 1 of the game, but think they are playing the end game. And these two groups are the deconstructing and destroying lit bros. I think you pronounced that wrong, right, Conscious? You don't know anything. And then on the other side, the toxic positivity crowd. What do you mean something's wrong in literature? Are you trying to divide and conquer us? Rupi Kaur is great. Art is subjective, right, Conscious? And both of these groups are preventing real growth in the community. And if you have been programmed and polarized in this way and you use it as your permanent mainframe, then you are more lost than you could ever imagine, because occasionally we should show some toxic positivity. Occasionally we should deconstruct and destroy something, but it should feel uncomfortable. I went full logic bro on Vincenzo Barney when he released that Cormac McCarthy article. He had this big release on Substack that was going to be a huge thing for his career, and I got this top comment and destroyed him, bro. Everything that he got wrong in the article, but as I was doing it, I felt so dumb. I was like, dude, why am I doing this? Why do I really have to be a logic bro right now? But some people come to every video, every personal interaction with that mindset. And that is the problem. And so I first want to focus on, even though I love talking about logic bros, the side that I don't talk about very often, which is the toxic positivity crowd on YouTube. And a lot of this is actually supported by the content creators themselves. Because if I look at some of my compatriots in the literary fiction or classic space, people like Benjamin McAvoy, Tristan in the Classics, Leaf by Leaf, I could just go on and on. And even though I actually like all of their videos, in actuality, most of them script their videos and just read off the teleprompter and say nothing to polarize their audience, and honestly, nothing negative. They can maybe say like this book wasn't good or something like that, but in general, they aren't being real. They are AI. They are actually not showing their real personality, because if they acted like that in person, then that'd be so weird. If they went to the bar with their friends or they were talking with their friends about these books and they felt that way, I'd be like, what is wrong with you? Is that how you really feel? You don't have any real opinions or any real emotions about this stuff? And it's sad as a community that we've accepted that. That's how far we've fallen off in this yearning for a connection through this digital medium, that we actually like people that don't polarize and don't show emotion, so that we can all connect with them and feel safe and know that when we go there, we won't be offended. Because on this show, I make fun of Christians and all religions and Democrats and Republicans all the time. I've basically polarized 99% of my audience. And that's not good for me making money or, growing this channel. But that's how I act in person. And that's how almost everyone else I know who is an authentic, learned human being acts also. But I want to go a little bit deeper into this toxic positivity movement, because the root of this is the art is subjective movement. I learned a cliche, art is subjective, Ian. And yes, if we go into philosophy, yes, art is subjective, but there are buckets of quality that we can all recognize within art. For instance, I am teaching some freshmen this year as, an English teacher. Many of them are 14, 15 years old. Many of them hate English. Their parents have not read to them, care nothing about their education. Some of their parents do, but there are at least half who don't. And when I read their writing, if I say, hey, I want you to create this story, I want you to write a 1,000-word short story, even though it maybe has a glimmer of energy in it and all this stuff, if I compare that to the Right Conscious flash fiction contest, which happened a couple months ago, it's going to be night and day. Anyone with a brain could look at the pieces and be like, this one is not as good as this one. And even though they're different, and maybe someone out in the world preferred the content in that story, everyone will know that this one is much higher quality. And the same goes with literature. I can't tell you if Murakami or Ishiguro is better, but they are in at least the good quality bucket for most people. I mean, we can almost all agree on that. And then the rankings, that's where it differs. But this use that this idea that art is subjective creates this toxic positivity bubble where we cannot say anything about anyone. And what this does is create a bubble for publishing houses to push shit on us and tell us that it's good. And because our population is getting more ignorant, we accept these industry plants that they are pushing on us as good. And that's when toxic positivity needs to end. That's when your lit bro or something a little bit more fierce needs to come out. And I've been shocked about this because at the start of this channel, I tried to make this my mission. I would read books. A lot of these videos are deleted because it was just so annoying to deal with the hate mail and the death threats. I would read a book, for instance. I would read Gabby Hanna or whoever, and then talk about the book. I would read, what got people to fired up the most is I would read Ocean Vuong and diss on his stuff. And people cannot wrap their heads around that Ocean Vuong is not in the great quality of writing. And the problem with talking about people like Ocean Vuong is that most people, especially in poetry, have no idea what real poetry is. If I start mentioning the names of Rilke, Cesar Vallejo, Juan Ramon Jimenez, Pablo Neruda, Denise Levertov, Marianne Moore, Mary Oliver, Amiri Baraka, James Wright, Robert Bly, Gary Snyder, Rimbaud. I could go on and on. Most people have not read those authors. The Goats, In Death, John Berryman, John Ashbery. I could go on and on. And so, when they see a poem like this from Ocean Vuong, do you remember when I tried to be good? It was a bad time. So much was burning without a source. I'm sorry I was so young. I didn't mean it. It's just this thing is heavy. How could anyone hold all of it and not melt? They hear that and they think that's some fucking masterpiece. And then when I say, guys, this guy sucks, and they're like, no, he works hard, Ian. And then I'm like, there's an article right here where he says he writes 5 poems a year. Well, I don't know. Well, you just don't know about poetry. Well, I just mentioned a bunch of people. And if you showed random people that had brain to those poems blindly, they'd be like, dude, this Ocean Vuong guy sucks. Who's this guy? And he sells millions of copies. But if I reach out and say that, if I make a video right now and I break down Ocean Vuong, the only people that are going to click on the video are Ocean Vuong superfans, people that like his work, people who think that he is great. And then I am suddenly just going to be harangued. I'm going to be this ignorant, racist, sexist dude that's going after the gay guy. And then if I double down and I say that this guy is a product, an industry plant of the DEI marketing campaign to inject a bunch of shit in our brains, then suddenly I'll be called, you're an alt-right funnel. You have Mishima videos on your channel. I know what you're doing. You want us all to worship Donald Trump, even though I talk shit on him all the time. I know what you're doing, right, Conscious? Any pushback on anyone results like this because there's a problem with the algorithm that, as I just said, if I make a diss video, I've tried to gently deconstruct people. The only people that care are the people that have read the work. And this is one of the biggest problems with BookTube. If you've ever tried to make videos on BookTube, you will find that the biggest problem is that if I make a video right now and I'm like, my spring to read list, and I sit and I talk about 30 books I'm going to read, you maybe know 3 of them. And then if I talk about the other 27, why would you watch that? Why would you watch someone and talk about books that you don't know about and that you're not planning to read, and they talk about it for a minute or two and move on to the next one? I've personally never found that appealing, and I really think that's why like BookTube is not a bigger kind of YouTube community, because a lot of people are very narcissistic anyway and don't talk about singular things. And then when they do talk about something singular, you have to be positive about it or your channel is going to tank. YouTube's going to be like, dude, this person is like Andrew Tate out here. When in actuality, you're just saying, hey, I don't really think that maybe Cormac McCarthy is the best author or whatever. And so there is this bubble that happens on BookTube because we're all, especially in the content creator zone, working in a very odd community in the sense that if I tried to make videos about trucks and about like, fixing trucks or having, pulling people out of bad situations like tow truck stuff, in general, the average audience member is maybe knowledgeable about trucks, but they're not looking to deconstruct and destroy or maybe, and I'll just say it, of the utmost highest intelligence. But there are people watching this video right now that are more intelligent than I will ever be. There are people who watch my writing videos who will be a better writer than I will ever be and can tell me everything that's wrong with me. And there are just so many smart people in this community, which is awesome. But it also creates this big problem where, as a creator, you feel like you can't go too hard, or that you're just gonna get eviscerated. And it's happened to me before. Like, I've made videos before, and I'm like, yeah, I get this crazy comment from this little genius. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And we'll talk about the logic bros in a second. But this is why there's this toxic positivity bubble, because it's easier to exist in that way. It's easier not to feel anything deeply and polarize and strike out and say, hey, I don't know about this. I don't know that poem we just read was good. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I was just so young. And this really supports the whole crowd that says, I'm not a poet. How can I judge? I'm new to all this. Guys, we all know that poem isn't good. In the core of the literary renaissance, everyone, are people becoming polarized and writing for specific people and not writing for everyone. Ocean Vuong is writing for everyone. You, as an author, need to be writing for this group out there who's going to love you, which really means, following this creative vision that you have. You're not going to become a superstar, and we've been trained to think that we're going to become these superstars. And the same is true in our own thinking. You need to be thinking on your toes. You shouldn't have opinions that everyone agrees with. If you actually express your feelings, you should make most people uncomfortable. That's just my opinion. But that means you're actually reading and researching and breaking free from the Democrat and Republican model and the party lines and all this stuff, and actually becoming a real individual. That's what I've realized so much with education and politics. It's for weak people who can't make decisions on their own. Like, now that I have a family, I'm like, dude, my wife and I are coming up with a vision of what we're going to do in terms of education and how we feel about the world and about religion. And we don't need the church. We don't need these things. We get to create that vision based on the greats that came before us, based on everything that's been built before us. I don't need a crutch. And the toxic positivity crowd feels like they can't have their own opinions and break off. And this creates a ton of problems, as I'm sure you guys know. It basically prevents us from being able to criticize and tear down people who are not good. And what reinforces this even more is the other side, because, okay, we all know that we have the freedom to do this, but the logic bros and the lit bros and how they've gone about deconstructing and destroying everything, whether it's I'm a postmodernist Marxist and I'm smart and I could, deconstruct everything in the classical deconstruction sense, or I'm a logical Christian who can show you why everything is neurosis in the world. I've seen both of those camps go crazy on my channel and out in the world, and it's the most annoying thing ever. We've all been there before. Every year I have a couple of these students, and everybody hates them. Everybody hates the know-it-all kid that uses logic and all this stuff. And it should be a social reinforcement that those kids should learn that they're like, hey, no one likes me. But funny enough, most of those kids are always religious or very political or like very radical, and then they feel like it's God's mission or whatever, and they get to act whatever way they want. But that's a different story. But it's the same thing is true online, but online you get to be anonymous. Online you get to slow down and use the written word, which is so much more intense. So let's say there is a guy at a party that we've all met, and maybe he's like, you mentioned spirituality or something, or politics, and he just wants to deconstruct and destroy everything and tell you why you're wrong, or tell you why Christ is king or whatever. You're just like, yeah. Okay, but that guy's thinking on his toes, and you can mention stuff, and it can be somewhat playful, and you can have a fun time. But online, you could say something. I could say something right now, and someone could think about a comment for literally an hour. Like, sometimes I read comments, and I know that the person who wrote it spent 60 minutes writing it, sometimes more. And I'm like, maybe this person has eviscerated me, but do I really want to spend 90 minutes responding to them. Back when I was trolling the Cormac McCarthy subreddit, Jarslow, the head moderator over there, wrote this big blog on why I suck. But I was laughing. I was like, dude, I was looking at this. Me and my students were laughing so hard because they all know about me laughing about Logic Pros. They're like, dude, this guy spent like 4 or 5 hours of his life writing a blog post about me on Reddit, telling everyone why I'm the bad guy. And it's just like, wow, the written word can get so intense. But what this side doesn't realize is that same power can be used to uplift, to make positive ripples in the world. Because the problem with the toxic positivity crowd is that they gatekeep things, that most of the time they aren't creating something real. And the problem with the Logic Bro crowd is that they deconstruct everything that's real. And so what both sides need to realize and do is, they need to both start constructing real things. They need to start creating something that matters in the world. And because we've been programmed to think that art shouldn't be transformative, that the literary renaissance is dumb and that you just should be able to write whatever you want, then people don't actually see this mission. They don't see what the power is of doing something important with your art, something meaningful. And they also don't realize that in a movement, everyone doesn't need to be a leader, that you don't need to be even a writer, that just by you supporting people and maybe doing other stuff, creating an Instagram account, promoting and quoting new authors that you think are really good, something like that, you've created something real and you're helping others. But we can't even create a movement anymore. The problem with both sides of this equation is that if you tell the toxic positivity crowd, we need to create a literary renaissance, why do we need one? We're not in it's not bad right now. Everything's fine. These authors are fine. There's no problem with DEI in publishing houses where we should be publishing the best stuff possible because we need to actually wake people up. Nothing's wrong. And if you say anything's wrong, then you're an alt-right funnel, dividing and conquering us. Then on the other side, if you try to start a movement, I know what you're doing, right, Conscious? You're starting a cult. You're a cult leader. I know, I'm the new Jim Jones, everyone. Soon, years from now, bodies will be flooded, lining the library halls, and you'll say, I knew it. Right, Conscious was starting a cult. Like, people are fucking retarded, everyone. Like, we can't get off the ground. We have no idea what is going on. Anytime someone says movement, or anytime we get any momentum, we can't go anything. Anywhere any group of people try to create anything real, it's a problem. And so these are the things that are preventing us from creating a literary renaissance. These two groups. And once you go back out on BookTube, you will see this. There are small-time content creators, Apocalypsis, Historia, and many other guys I know, my boy Bathcat, like, they aren't scared to talk crap. I'm talking about people with tens of thousands of followers, or like the industry leaders, and I'm not even there yet. I'm not as big as any of those names I mentioned at the start of the video. And that's partially because to get that big, you can't be polarizing people, because people will say, I heard Right Conscious say this one thing and I'll never listen to him again. It's like, okay, that's crazy. If I stopped talking to people in real life who said stupid shit, I would talk to nobody. I would never, it would be over. The only people who don't say stupid stuff are the corporate guys at my job and in the world who, like, everything's planned. And so those are the type of dudes that take Xanax at home. So anyway, so there it is, everybody. Speaking of Xanax, shout out to Jordan Benzo Peterson, my favorite addict out there. Shout out to the Literary Renaissance. Shout out to everybody else. I love each and every one of you. Create something real. Do something with your talent. And I will see you guys very soon in the next video.